Hello friends. Last week we introduced you to Ascent Nutrition's mold and mycotoxin-free organic coffee. Now it's time to check out their algae oil DHA. The benefits of algae oil DHA are incredible. It supports a healthy brain, memory, focus, clarity, and concentration, children's brain health, and a healthy development. It supports overall cardiovascular health, healthy DNA function, and a healthy inflammatory response. Algae oil DHA also facilitates quantum tunneling of electrons into the mitochondria for energy use. The list goes on and on. It also contains 250% more DHA than fish oil per unit. It's backed by at least 16 human clinical studies. Go check out all the benefits for yourself at goascentnutrition.com and use coupon code FKN to get 10% off your entire order. Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guests are Lindsey Scharmyn and Ryder Lee. First, I have a couple of announcements. Forbidden Knowledge News is always available on Rokfin, Odysee, Rumble, all podcast platforms, limited on YouTube. Check us out on Rokfin. This is where you get our premium content. You also get all the premium content and free content from every creator on Rokfin. Just go to rokfin.com/FKN+, or click the link in the description to sign up. Our website is forbiddenknowledge.news. This is the home of the Forbidden Knowledge Network. This is where you find other amazing podcasts from our community, like Raised by Giants, Inception, The Ancient Gift, Going Down the Rabbit Hole, and many more. Check out our friends at Fake Mask. Unfortunately, it seems that the COVID narrative may be ramping up again. There are still businesses that require employees to wear masks. Fake Mask has the most breathable and authentic looking masks on the market. They're sure to get you into work and on with your day. You can now also get Joe Biden toilet paper from Fake Mask. That's right, wipe your ass with Joe Biden with Fake Mask. Just click the link in the description or go to fakemask.shop and you get 10% off your order. Finally, guys, if you would like to help in any way with the Forbidden documentary, anything is greatly appreciated. We can't do it without your help. The price of gas is incredibly ridiculous. You can go to supportfkn.com or use the PayPal link in the description. Anything donated through supportfkn.com, and you're going to get access to Cory Hughes' research for his new upcoming book on the JFK assassination. Like I said, guys, anything is greatly appreciated, and hopefully we'll be able to come out and visit with as many of you as possible. Today I want to welcome back to the show Lindsey Scharmyn and Ryder Lee. Lindsey is host of Rogue Ways podcast, author of 4 books, educator, and national board certified teacher with a master's in teaching. She is also a spiritualist and experiencer of other realms via astral travel, dream walking, visions, and interaction with other dimensional entities. Ryder is host of Raised by Giants. He's a true seeker, knowledge guardian, and spiritual educator. He uses his real-world experiences to educate and elevate others to awaken, question their reality, and expand their consciousness. On Raised by Giants, he interviews others from all backgrounds about their spiritual awakening to bring people different perspectives of what's going on in the world on an individual and collective level. Lindsey and Ryder, welcome. How you both doing?
I'm
Fantastic.
doing great, Chris. Thanks so much for having us on. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to it and looking forward to speaking with Lindsey as well.
Yes, it's nice to be here with you fine gentlemen.
Yeah, this is going to be great. I invited some of my favorite people here today to discuss something that's becoming more and more evident with everything I learn, with each deception that comes from the media, news, government, from whistleblowers, even secret space people, as well as new age and some old age contactees that may not have the best interest of this community in mind. And that's the mainstream alien UFO UAP deception and where it could possibly be going, and maybe look at some suspected big players in the disinfo game. And I want to get your insights into what is not only going on behind the deception, but what may actually be a genuine part of the UFO alien phenomena. Now, Lindsey, let's start with how has your understanding of this phenomena changed over the years?
It has changed tremendously, actually. I started out thinking it was just nuts and bolts all the way. And I started seeing UFOs in the sky, and I just assumed that they were nuts and bolts because I had no other. I don't know. I didn't have anything else to go off of. And eventually it seemed really unlikely based on the way that they would move and present themselves that they were nuts and bolts, but I didn't really have the framework to deal with that idea. So I just was very confused. And then as we've moved on, I think, who was it? Was it Keel or, oh man, I don't know, Valet maybe, who first I was reading years and years and decades ago. And he was the first one that I ever read that said something like, maybe these are spiritual or interdimensional in nature, more akin to what we would call angels and demons. And I was like, bing, like it made so much sense. And now that's what my understanding is. I do think there's something physical going on too, though. I just think they're two different phenomenon.
It's really interesting how the phenomenon really changed over the years, right? Like it started out with these tinfoil crafts, looking like hats in the sky, trash can lids, the whole Billy Meyer thing. But and they've evolved and they've changed a lot since then, and the phenomena has really developed into something completely different than it was, like plasma craft, like interdimensional craft, like shape-shifting craft. We even have shape-shifting flying humanoids like on video now. So it's really weird. I don't exactly know when the shift happened, but when you think about it, you're like, how did it progress so quickly? Like if something else in our reality would progress like that, we would really sit back and take notice. If all of a sudden we went from having cars that are running off of regular gas engines to having super plasma craft, like if the things that we were using in our everyday life evolve the way that UFOs and the phenomena has evolved, then I think that we would take more notice. But I think it's interesting how much it has changed since the very beginning.
Well, and look at like even before the modern times, we had like the airship sightings that had all the same qualities as UFO sightings and UFO abductions and things, but they were like blimps, they were like zeppelins. And then before that, they were like carriages, like horse carriages in the sky. And before that, who knows what, right? We have like all these old stories like fairy folklore and mythologies that have all the same characteristics. And then when I found that out, I was like, what the hell? So it seems like they shift depending on what we expect, like the technology we're used to, or what we might expect to see of something that's like slightly more advanced than us.
Yeah.
What's a really interesting one is the Battle of LA, right? Like that's a really interesting case, how the UFO was flying over LA. I can't remember the exact date when that happened. I think it was in the 50s,
Yeah.
late 50s. 60s or whatever, and then it was just kind of brushed over, you know what I mean? Like they make an excuse for, everything, like, the Roswell crash was, an air balloon or whatever, or a crash test dummy. They always make up some kind of excuse to cover up the phenomenon. I don't remember exactly what they said. I think they said it was a blimp at Battle of LA, didn't they?
I think so. I think you're right. But it is interesting. That's one of the only cases, one of the earliest cases that I know of that we had kind of interaction where our military fired at something and something fired back, and I think it destroyed some of our craft, if I'm not mistaken. So that's definitely an interesting case. But what do you guys think about the possibility that some of these crafts started getting on our radar after the nuclear testing that we did, after Hiroshima, after we actually launched a nuclear bomb? It seems like some of the phenomena did shift a bit after this. We did start seeing what consider more like saucer activity. I don't know, but like you both said, there's always been accounts throughout history. We can look at ancient paintings and photos and things like that and see that this phenomena has been something for a long time. It may have been shifting, but what do you think about the nuclear aspect?
It is fascinating, especially to think like, did that rip a hole in space-time or something? Like, did that create a portal that let them in? And if so, it gives even more credence to the like interdimensional spiritual sort of nature of the possibility of these things. But didn't the Jack Parsons thing happen at the same time? Like that, Jack Parsons like went out to the desert and like tried to rip a hole in space-time through sex magic and whatever, and then seemingly succeeded. And then we had all of that phenomenon too. So it's easy to look at it and say like, oh, they're trying to help us and they're responding to our possible self-destruction and they're just trying to save us. And I think that's the narrative that they, being the psychopathic elite, would love for us to pick up and run with and never think past. It's like too convenient and easy. And then it also pushes you towards trusting whatever these things are, which I think you can trust some of them. I do myself, but it's good to be wary too. Like, what else might be coming through?
Yeah, Aleister Crowley was said to have opened up a portal too and never closed it, and he died before he was able to close it, and that's what a lot of these entities have come through that portal. But you brought up something really interesting in there, Lindsey, that, Chris brought it up about the nuclear thing, and I think that they use the nuclear thing as a fear mechanism, right? Because they're like, oh, well, if they can shut down our nuclear power plants, then they're a threat to our national security. And I think the opposite, right? Like, well, if they're able, do we want nuclear weapons?
Yeah.
Like, is that like a positive thing? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, and I think that they're using that excuse to make it and paint it as more of a threat. But again, it doesn't make any sense. Like, if they can shut down the nuclear weapons, then they would effectively be preventing some kind of a nuclear disaster. But they're trying to flip that.
Which I would love. I would love it if some aliens showed up and were like, look, guys, like, here's what's going to happen. No more nukes, no more psychopaths, like, freedom, space communism, or whatever is going to happen. Like, that'd be great. But I just don't, I think that's such a dangerous mentality, right? And I'm not saying you're promoting this or anyone here is, but a dangerous mentality to expect that, hope for it, or like welcome it, because that's how they sneak in the, I guess, degeneracy of your own self-responsibility. And then you become reliant on something outside of yourself. It's dangerous.
Well, you have two separate sides of it. You have the one side of it that thinks that they're all good and that they're all here to save us and the betterment of humanity and all that. And then you have the other side that thinks that they're like a huge threat. And I personally don't think that they're either. I think that they just shoot down the middle of the line. They're absolutely neutral. And depending upon our perspective of them, depends on what they are. And there's also a theory that I've heard a few people talk about that I've kind of adapted as well, that I think that a lot of them are able to just be who they want to be. Like, they can, they go into their closet and put on a different avatar, just like we go to the closet and put on a different pair of clothes every day. And they're able to use a different avatar for whatever agenda that they want to get across that day. If they want to be a gray alien one day, they go put on a gray alien avatar. If they want to be 10-foot tall reptilian, then they go put on a 10-foot tall reptilian avatar. They want to be a Nordic, they go put on a Nordic avatar, And I think that
Bigfoot.
That's exactly a fairy, whatever, they could be doing whatever they want with the consciousness transfer technology that they have.
Yeah. And if you look at, again, the description of jinns or angels or demons, like that is also their skill. They can shapeshift into whatever and present however, because they don't have a physical form. They're just energy and consciousness.
Now, yeah, we could go on forever about what these things are, what the nature of them are, and I want to go on that a little bit later. But first, I want to get to the immediate deception that appears to be unfolding right now and for the past few years, and we've been led up to it for a long time. I think in media and movies has portrayed them in a certain way, which led to the government disclosure, then portraying them in a certain way and as a threat, and going on. And now we have big players who used to be quote unquote whistleblowers who are now intentionally put in our community to spread their information, which is actually disinformation, get people all excited because, they used to work for the CIA or the government or the military, and they know something. But we have to look at their actual job titles, the description of what they're supposed to be doing, what they used to do. Are they really, out of what organization they claim to be? And what are their real intentions? We'll never know. And there's tons of people like that implanted in our community right now, and that's what I want to talk about. Ryder and I witnessed firsthand a few of these people at some UFO conferences. Those are always interesting experiences. But what do you think is the overall point of this deception, and the reason we're being pointed into the threat direction?
Well, I think, Chris, that they're doing it on purpose because they just can't come out and say the aliens exist. They've been covering up the technology for a really long time. So they have to, in order for everyone to get on board with it, because if they were like, oh, hey, by the way, all of these aliens exist, we've had this craft for a really long time, there would have to be a lot of responsibility taken on their end. And we know that they're never going to take responsibility for that. So they have to make it some kind of external threat in order to get everybody on board with it and make them realize that these beings exist, these kinds of craft exist. I mean, they just now came out and said that, in the middle of the whole 2020 thing, that the UFOs are basically real. And look how long it took them to do that. That's like 60 some years that it took them to come out and admit that these crafts are even real. So it's going to be a while, I think, anyway, if we're looking back at the progression of this whole thing and how long there's been a cover-up, that they will admit that that aliens even exist, unless they do the whole threat thing, which makes a lot of sense. Werner von Braun was talking about that. Many people have talked about it. Randy Kramer has talked about it, how they're getting ready to stage a fake alien invasion. And again, that just can't come right off the rip, because you have to make people believe in it. You have to collapse everything that we thought that we knew about it, and then you can come in with the threat. And a lot of people are talking about, oh, well, it's going to happen next year or in the next 2 or 3, 4 or 5 years. I don't think so. It's a long thing. A lot of other events have to happen in order to create the catalyst for a staged event of that magnitude. And I think that there will be, unfortunately, very few of us left whenever they pull that last card out.
Yeah, it might be, and it might be sooner. I never know how many of these things are real, but I've seen like 3 of these now in the past handful of years where they show like what seems to be a giant group of people indoors somewhere, and supposedly holographic displays of like whales and dolphins swimming above their head, or like crashing into the gym floor was the first one I ever saw, and spray going everywhere and everyone seeming to react. And I've also seen people saying that's fake. I've never seen anything like that in person, so I don't know. But it seems like they get better and better at perfecting their projection technology. And, Project Bluebeam and all of that has something we know that they've been working on, or so who knows like how far along they are in their ability to pull off something completely faked. But then I also don't put it past them to pull off something where they open portals and invite things in, because they talk about that all the time too, in CERN and in D-Wave computing and quantum computing and all these different areas. They're talking about that as well. So whether they have something that comes in that is intelligent and real, or whether they have something that they create completely and is a projection and a creation, it could be sooner, it could be later, but it also could go either way. It could be an attack that we all, like you're just talking about, Ryder, that we all join together and say we're being attacked from the outside and here's a pathway to the New World Order. It could also be not an attack and be a pathway to the New World Order, because these aliens could come in and say, oh, look, you're all dying from monkeypox, you're in this famine, you're in this economic meltdown, like we've got the answer for you. Here's your new world government, here's your new health ordinances or whatever, and this is how we do it, and look how advanced we are. And I think that would also be really, really effective. If people were already in the middle of fear, then they will take their saviorship more easily, right? And this is what we saw with the 4 years of Trump terrorism, on TV, and like programming into people that Trump's so evil, so scary, they're broken people. And then, but here's Biden and Kamala, and everyone's like, saviors. Don't look at their backgrounds. Don't look at what they say. Just run into it. Just trust. Just get out of the terror. And I feel like that could be just as effective too. So which way are they going to go? I don't know. Right? It's very interesting.
I don't think that it's going to be completely fake. They have to. It's like a staged event, right? It's fake because it's planned, right? It's not fake because it's actually fake that it didn't happen. It's actually going to happen, but it's just it's fake because they have staged it, And I think the plan is to eliminate the rest of the people during that fake staged event. And take out the rest of the people that are left behind after everything goes down in the next 5 to 10 years. But I want to bring back a point that Chris just made about the disinformation people, because this is a very important aspect too. And a lot of these people, a lot of the big players in the UFO community come out and straight say that they were that they've worked for the military. They were covert operations, that
counterintelligence officers, and that they have been assigned to do the exact same thing in the UFO community, and it's a huge problem, because a lot of people look to these individuals as someone that knows what they're talking about, when they've actually been placed there to do exactly what they were doing before in the military. And one person that is straight on video for saying that is Lou Elizondo, right? So it's there you go. Yeah, right on. People like Lou Elizondo. Not only him, we met Rick Doty, another admitted now whistleblower who used to be counterintelligence, and his job was to spread misinformation within the UFO community. In fact, I think a couple of people probably killed themselves because of the information that was being shared at the time with Mr. Doty. But that's a whole new story. But lucky Mr. Doty, he gets to make $100 an interview now, because he's on Showtime, and that's what he's charging now for interviews. So congratulations to him, and I hope he exposes all the aliens at Area 51. But it's people like this who are being inserted here to express a certain narrative, and so far it's been, from these individuals, it seems like a threat narrative, but there's two different ones. There's the threat, and then there's the ultra ascension, love and light, secret space narrative. And that's people like David Wilcock, Corey Good, the people who have been exposed so bad recently that are still trying to claim to these ridiculous stories and narratives that we're going to send to 5D, and a lot of these crazy secret space stories. So we got two competing narratives to go off of, and I think the whole idea is, so we're just confused and we don't know what the hell is really going on between these two, and it may even be the truth somewhere between them. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's really terrifying to think that there's people out there who believe anybody like flat out, and just swallow what they're saying. And no matter who they are, no matter what their background is, you should be like, okay, maybe not. Like, that's the best we can do, right? Until you experience it yourself. And even then you would question, right? Because you'd say, I'm not sure why I experienced that, what I actually experienced, in what way, like there's all sorts of things to consider. To be very sure about someone or something is probably the biggest mistake. And the 5D ascension thing, that's what worries me more, because the attack narrative, for me at least, that was the first, that's the most frequent, that's the easiest to spot when it comes, for our community in general, I think. But the other side seems to get a lot more people, because I think it's so nice, again, to think that something's going to swoop in, pick you up, lift you up to 5D. Everything's going to be good for the rest of time. Don't you deserve that? All of this, you're satisfied finally, and you didn't have to do any of it yourself. And that's so dangerous. This also, whether that's the direction they go or not, this also coincides with their general sort of desire to create dependent individuals on the system. Is the same sort of mentality, right? That invites you to sacrifice and abdicate your own self-responsibility to let someone else come in and take care of it for you, so you never have to think or worry again, and everything's just going to be good. And I would say, again, to always go off of your own internal experience and intuition perhaps, but always with a lot of skepticism and doubt sprinkled in, because so many people have turned out to be bad actors, lifetime actors often as well. So you think, well, why would they do this for so long? Well, somebody's paying them, right? They have money.
That's like my biggest problem, Lindsay. Like, I don't care what anybody says. Anyone can say whatever they want to say.
Right.
It's not that I'm upset about someone telling their story or what they believe. It's the fact that a lot of these people are charging money for these things. You know what I mean? They're like, oh yeah, come and take my 5D ascension course and I'll send you straight into 5D, or buy my Zoom session and I'll heal you of all of your problems. You know what I mean? And like, it's a scam. And that's the big problem, because they're money grabbers, right?
And then when the person doesn't experience it, they ask them why, and they say, oh, well, you did something wrong, you failed, you have bad karma or whatever. And I'm like, I hate you. I'm with you. It's horrifying.
Yeah, they do this kind of thing all the time. There's been so many scams like that. I think it was I don't want to say his name because I'm not 100% sure on the story, but there was a gentleman that basically sold tickets to see an alien body in Mexico, knowing dang well that this dude did not have an alien body. And all these people purchased these tickets to go see an alien body. And it was like a cow carcass or something like that. And
I remember that. Yep.
It's like, it's things like that that's annoying, like how I don't understand how you can really get away with that. And they keep doing it over and over again, and they keep switching. They do the shuffle, right? It'll be this one thing this month or this year, and then it'll be something completely different the next year, to like hook people back in and keeping them believing in the narrative.
Yeah. One of the worst parts about all this is the perpetuation of this through UFO conferences. I don't cover those anymore, because the last one that I was at, when I was Ryder came with me, I just realized there's just too many people that are just taking advantage through these conferences to get bogus information out there. Yes, they had plenty of genuine, wonderful people there. They had plenty of genuine, wonderful presenters there who I completely believed, and I was totally into their story, and I had them on my show. But there are also tons of people that I will never have on my show that were there that gave completely BS information, and I can't believe they were even allowed on stage to present some of the stuff that they were talking about. But again, unfortunately, these UFO conferences are just about the money. It's about, bringing in revenue ultimately. And I know, unfortunately, some of the owners of this, and they've been admittedly just, looking for personalities that will bring people into the seats, whether they have the looks or they have the story. It's whatever will bring people to buy those tickets and get them in the seats. And we see those same people who were attending the conferences and spreading the BS Also on their own personal websites and Facebook pages, selling the most ridiculous things you've ever heard of in your life. They're offering med beds to people,
Oh my God.
yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Things like, I don't know, alien sperm you can rub in your hair and it, takes you to 5D. That I made up. But I know for sure that there's people
Someone's
out
gonna do
there.
it now.
Yeah, I know. Right. I know, damn it, they stole my idea. But I know there's somebody out there with trying to push med beds. I won't say their name. It's just so ridiculous. I don't even want to give them attention. But this is what we're dealing with, guys.
Yeah, that's really awful. This is one of the things this is not by any means the criteria you should actually go by, but I tend to look around. I'm like, okay, who is not just glammed up and supermodeled, and who is wearing kind of raggedy clothes maybe, or whose story is just genuine. It's not this polished action filled drama and whatever. Those are the things that tip me off. All right, this person's legit. They're just down to earth and normal, and this is just what they're sharing, and they don't care either, who pays attention or who doesn't necessarily. Sometimes they still really want to get the message out, whatever, but they're not seeking that necessarily. And those are the things that tip me off. This person might be genuine. They still might not be. You still have to use your intuition, skepticism, and all of that. But those are some good starts. Whenever someone comes in super glammed up, super polished story, super dramatic, just emotion and good acting skills, I'm probably not the best person to listen to. And stuff like that really bothers me. I've had some people who I work with who have come to me and talked about med beds and stuff. And I'm who's feeding them this? And then I have to sort of deprogram them off of that. Look, let's do what we can right here, right now, and not wait for a med bed, this is life that we're living together. So I see the damage that it's done already. Just, I didn't know that was a thing. I don't know. I guess I thought they just heard it somewhere or something. I didn't know there was someone who's literally trying to sell this to
I
them,
just saw the ad so far. I don't know. Where I didn't do any research into the damn thing. I don't know if it's a tanning bed she converted into a med bed. I don't know.
Or some water in it. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, see, again, I don't really care what people are saying. They can say whatever they want, right? I've brought on some people on my show that have said things that are unverifiable, obviously, right? But they're not selling me anything, right? They're not oh, hey, I can do this for you if you give me some kind of money or whatever. And, that's a really big problem. And there's a difference between asking for a donation or something like that, because I do that on my show, right? But they're getting what they get. I'm not promising them anything other than what they're getting, right? So if they're giving a donation, then they're getting what they're getting for that donation. But whenever you're intentionally scamming someone, promising something that you cannot deliver on, then that's a problem, and you're a fraud in my eyes.
Yeah. Well, and you're harming people directly, I offer a lot of spiritual services, for example, and my goal, and I say this to everybody, is to get people to not use my services. My goal is that everyone does this for themselves, because that's ideally what everyone will do. Right? And some people, me included in the past, need some assistance getting there. And then you can do it for yourself, and then maybe others as well. And that's my goal. Whereas a lot of people, their goal is to hook a customer, get them coming back, get them in for life, get them in these courses that never actually lead anywhere. My goal is let's do as much as we can in this time together, and then ideally you'll go off on your own. And empowering other people is a model that is not as lucrative, but it is much, much better for the entirety of the human race.
Yeah. Well, now that you're mentioning, people kind of taking what is perceived as abilities and using it for money, like you said, you are indeed a channeler. You've channeled profound information into books, and there are people who use what they're calling channeling for nefarious purposes or for monetary gain or to deceive people. What is your advice to discern with that, being a channeler yourself, to be on the lookout for people that are channeling BS,
I think that's a piece of it too, is looking for people who are like that, who are look, I don't even care if you come and take this or not. Like, it's yours or it's not. I'm not attached to it. And people who are also saying that, like, this is to empower you so you can go and be and do anything that you can, because we all have the same potential. I know a lot of people don't believe that, but I do see that everybody has the potential to do any of the things I do or that anybody else does. And some are just maybe born with like a little bit more already going on or something. Cool. But like, everyone has that potential. And so another thing I think is when people, Ryder said, promise a lot, because I also tell people, like, I don't know what's even going to happen. Like, we can come and we can do this and we'll see what happens together. Like, I don't promise anything. People are like, oh, can you do a past life clearing? I'm like, I don't know. We'll see. And lots of people don't like that. And so they're not going to come to me, but I'm like, I'm not going to lie to you and promise you that I can do that, because what happens, oftentimes it does include past life clearing. And oftentimes it does include all sorts of things, but I'm not going to promise it because I don't actually direct it. Like, from what I understand of what I'm doing, your guides and my guides are doing it, and I don't force them to do anything. I just watch them do it. Like, and then I report to you. So it's healing. It's always healing. I can promise that to people, that if they come open and ready, that it is healing and transformative. But people who promise you really specific things, oftentimes aren't going to always be the best either. However, I know some really, really gifted people who do promise very specific things and deliver. Their gifts are a little different than mine. They're much more of traditional, what people call psychic. So they're like, yeah, I'm going to give you a past life reading and it's going to be, this. And so that's also possible, but combined with what I was saying before about like, get the vibe of them. Are they like down to earth and just a normal person? You could just sit down and have coffee with them and it would be just like talking with any other person who doesn't have gifts. Then that's probably a good person to trust. And then combine it with that. Like, are they going to empower you? Are they like not necessarily claiming the sun, moon, and stars, but just like being real about what they can give you? And I think that's a good collection of things to go off of.
Right on. Anything to add to that, Ryder, before we move to the next?
No, I agree with that 100%, that whenever people are promising something, I would be very skeptical of what you're going to receive. Now, just like Lindsey said, there are people that are very legit, and I know a few of them, and I had one on my show the other day that I have worked with several times and is a very proficient energy healer and psychic and channeler, and he's the real deal. And every time he's ever worked on me and has been remote, it's been through Zoom, I've felt him working on me, and like he literally lifts stuff up off of you, and you can literally feel it come off of you, and you feel lighter after the session. He's one of the only people that I've ever had a session with that I felt like that. Right, I've had other energy healers and other people that's done work on me, and I didn't feel anything. So it's kind of like just figure it out and kind of test the waters and talk to other people who have had experiences with others and figure it out, because it is legit. There are real good energy healers out there and really good psychics. They're just mixed in with unfortunately, a bunch of bullshit nonsense.
I think probably more fraudsters than genuine people, honestly. This is why I spent my life being like, all those people are liars, like all of them. And then I met some that weren't, and I was like blown away by it. And then I realized, I can also do things, and I was blown away by that too. But I was going to say the testimonials that sometimes I try to share testimonials with people, because what I also say that you just reminded me is that you should be able to have a perceivable difference in your lived experience, right? And so Ryder's describing in the moment itself, feeling that energy, that's something that you can actually do. But also, like, you might notice, oh, I like now have a much easier time with this certain trigger I used to have, or with this, emotional issue I was having. It's like noticeably different. That's another good sign. And when other people are reporting that too, in great enough numbers or in ways that seem legitimate, that's also something I would go off of.
Another thing, well, just to comment on what you said there, whenever I got my first energy healing session with the individual that I had on my show, people literally commented to me in person and told me that I looked different. Right. And that's which I already knew after it was done, because it literally felt like a huge weight had just lifted up off of my body. Like the entire time it's just been weighing me down and weighing me down, and it was just gone, and I felt lighter. And people were like, what happened to you? Like, you look really, really good. And I'm like, well, hey, so that's another thing, is like word of mouth. And when people are commenting on the way that you present yourself and the way that you look, that's another key sign that it's the real deal.
Good point.
Yeah, and for those like you, Lindsey, that offer these services, don't complain about people who charge for this stuff, people, because if you are genuine and you can do this stuff for people, the benefits are invaluable. I've myself has worked with healers and psychics and people who are genuine, and man, I would never complain about what they're charging if they're doing it genuinely, because that is a skill. That's like something that has genuine benefits to help people, other than bullshit poison or pharmaceuticals or therapy that you think you're getting from some fraud. These are real, genuine energies and healings and frequencies and things that could change your life for the better. And to me, I consider it to be invaluable. So don't complain about people charging for this shit, at least if they're genuine, But I want to go back to the alien deception thing, to the secret space program. Ryder and I have both had individuals on that claim to be deep in these supposed black projects connected with MK Ultra programs that supposedly send you off to different planets, either your consciousness or a clone. Very fantastic stories sometimes, and unfortunately none of them can be verified. And I want to get your thoughts on the possibilities of some of this going on. We know that people like Cory Good are known liars, and a lot of the stuff that they've told us has kind of put a bad taste in people's mouth when it comes to the whole secret space program and possibilities with it. I am still open to the idea, although my idea and belief of what space could possibly be has drastically changed over the years. But I still am open to it, and I think it could be a possibility that maybe these people's consciousness is being sent to different realms to do different tasks. That I'm open to, maybe. There's a lot of other physical aspects to it that make me scratch my head. A lot of things that I don't think are possible at all, that are just probably implanted memories for these people, because lots of times I think these people do believe their stories. I think they do believe that they've been to these places and have had these experiences, and on some level they may have, but some may be a mind control program, because they're admittedly been through mind control programs. So we don't know how far that could go in altering their perception of what reality is. So I really want to get each of your thoughts on the secret space program.
Well, I think that there's legit a secret space program. There is a physical aspect to it. If you've ever listened to William Tompkins, Bob Dean, they lay it out really, really well, and how it all kind of happened. And I tend to believe them. Now, the stories from experiencers, especially in the super soldier programs, I've actually put out a video on this called "The Secrets of the Secret Space Program," and I personally believe that a large percentage of it, probably 80 to 90% of it, is not happening here, that it's happening someplace else on a different timeline, a different reality, an alternate reality. And I mean, a lot of the experiencers talk about the Montauk Project, about being strapped into a chair, them opening up a artificial portal in front of them, and then them going through the portal. I think that is a part of it, and that's where the MK Ultra mind fracturing is a very verifiable thing. It's a real thing. They said that they closed it down. They stopped the project, but they did, but they just renamed it something else and continued doing it. But I think that that's more than likely what's going on, is that they've been mind fractured they've opened up some kind of artificial portal or a wormhole, and they're able to separate that part of their consciousness that's been fractured, and they've thrown that part of the conscience through the portal to live out a different reality in a different timeline in an alternate dimension. Now, that doesn't mean that their experiences aren't real. Like, I think that a lot of them are real. They just aren't happening here, and that's a difficult concept for people to kind of grasp, because they want to lock it into this 3D reality. And when I don't think that it's not plausible that it's happening here. I mean, a lot of these people have alters from the mind fracturing. So how can all of those alters live out the a 30 and a 20 and back and a 60 and back program? They can't, you know. So especially not simultaneously. So it only makes sense to me logically and critically that the alters have been sent through a different time or an alternate dimension or an alternate reality, lived out that time. And the time that's happening here could have been really short. It could have been a couple of minutes, it could have been a couple of hours, but it could have been 20 years out there, wherever their fractal of their consciousness was sent, and then it was brought back, and that's what they're remembering, is a fractal of their consciousness living out a different life someplace else.
Yeah, that makes the most sense to me too. You know, when people do DMT, they also go places, and I think they're real places, and I think they actually go there in their consciousness. When we dream, I think we actually go places in our consciousness, and that they're real places, and we experience real experiences. So when people say things like, "Oh, it's just a hallucination," or "It's just a dream," I'm like, that doesn't mean it wasn't real, that it didn't actually happen, and that it didn't actually have real measurable effects, or even what we would call physical effects, or change timelines, or who knows what. And like, the concept of the multiverse is more and more shoved in our face, which I think is really interesting, whether that's because it's like coming up in the human consciousness because they're messing with it so much, or we're coming closer and closer to some like singularity that isn't a machine AI singularity, but is more of like a time singularity of some kind or something. I don't know if it's any of those things, but it makes sense to me that they would be messing with that they would be trying to control it, or trying to create effects or alternate timelines, or any of those number of things through programs like this. That makes way more sense to me than that they are physically going somewhere, or even if they are physically going somewhere, I can't wrap my head around that yet. I know that we teleported things, but all we've teleported actually is information. We haven't teleported the physical structure of anything yet, supposedly. Right? Who knows what exotic technology they have. So it makes more sense to me that consciousness would be traveling somewhere through dimensions or times with things like Montauk, or like the Philadelphia experiment seems to have actually teleported physically. So maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe they're jumping all over the place. I don't know. But I also, I had what some people might call an abduction experience. Some people might call it a near-death experience. I've had people just call it both when I describe it to them. But when I came back from it, I was shown like a globe covered in tornadoes that all went inward. And I could choose any tornado I wanted, because they weren't tornadoes, but they looked like that to me, to go back to my life. And each of them was like a different timeline. And I was guided to choose a specific one, which I guess is this one that we're on for some reason. And in that, I saw actually myself really, really old, which at the time I was like, I'm not going to live that long. That must have been someone else. But now I'm like, that was probably actually me, like late in life. And so I have that experience of, seems to me like multiple timelines are real, seems to me like interdimensional travel is real, and that really it's your consciousness doing it, jumping from whatever point to whatever point. In my lived moment to moment experience, nothing really changed. I just woke up again and was like, oh, okay, still have to go to school tomorrow, like la la la, and that was it. So if that was happening on some whatever entities were guiding that, or carrying that out, I just would, like, of course, governments and other organizations would want to figure out how to use that to their advantage.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And there's another thing that happens in the SSP and the super soldier community too, is that everyone's experiences gets all jumbled up, right? And they're playing off of everyone's experiences, and they're talking about memories and things that they never even really experienced. They're just playing off of hearing someone else. And then there's the people that will have a dream while listening to someone talk about it, and then they'll dream about it and then think that they actually experienced it. Like I've had that happen several times to myself, but I know that that's not a memory from me. That's my subconscious listening to a podcast whenever I'm going to sleep, and then I'm dreaming about it. Like I had a friend that sent me her interview from whenever she was on someone's show talking about the secret space program, and I hadn't listened to any secret space program things in a while. And I texted her back. I was like, hey, like I'm going to dream about this tonight. You know what I mean? Because I know that I'm listening to it, and I know that my subconscious is susceptible to it. You know, and I did dream about it. And I dreamed about like time travel and like all this stuff, but I had the awareness to know that it wasn't actually coming from me. It was coming from the thing that I was listening to. And then I just dreamed about it. But I don't feel like a lot of people really have that awareness. And whenever they listen to something, they dream about it and then they think that they're involved in some kind of way.
Yeah, some people ask me, like, how do you know which dreams? And I'm like, the more you have them, the more you know. That dreams that are just repeating your daily experiences, like you're describing, and the dreams where something's actually going on that's deeper and beyond that, where your soul or your consciousness is traveling and actually doing and experiencing real things. And so how do you know? Experience, I guess, is the best answer to that. There's also like a depth of quality that is just different. There's a presence and a continuity that is different from those dreams that are just recycling, firing neurons, like testing the circuits and all of that, you know, processing information.
Right on. Yeah, man, it's very fascinating to see the connections that could be going on with our dreaming conscious and actual interacting with different dimensions. And speaking of different dimensions, I know Lindsey and I have discussed this on Day Zero and probably some other show, that there's also, I believe, a huge deception about the nature of our reality when it comes to space and space travel and what's actually existing beyond our atmosphere. I have greatly changed my belief on this. First of all, I believe that everything NASA's showing us is a lie. I don't know if the traditional model of space is true in any way, and I'm not going to say it's not. I'm not going to say it is. I don't know. I just question it. I question if space travel is even possible in the way that they've shown us, and I question if what we call aliens are coming from different planets, or are they just from different dimensions or different realities, different densities, different frequencies. I don't know. And it seems that our reality is much more malleable and non-physical than we've ever been led to show. So where does that leave us with what we're on and our relationship to what we might perceive as aliens? I think that what we are considering to be different planets and may just be different realms. I don't know for sure. But if the secret space program does exist, I don't think we're traveling to these planets or realms the traditional way in rockets, but consciousness travel would be a very efficient way to do it, like you guys were talking about. So what do you guys think about the nature of what we're on? Is this a planet, a realm, a pancake, or a dolphin? What do you think?
I think I can't be sure either, but I do think there's multiple things going on. So I think it's not helpful to like reduce it to like, this is the one answer and that's what it is. Like, it seems to me, I mean, it's clear we're in some sort of a place. It's physical, seemingly, right? Of whatever we call physical, this is it. It seems like there's a lot that leads to inner Earth, right? And a lot of cultural and historical and mythological experiences with even what we call aliens, especially the reptilians. And the Greys oftentimes are associated with tunnels and going under the earth. So I'm like, I don't know. Do they live down there? Like, there could be a whole entire civilization down there. It's just everywhere, sprinkled throughout all sorts of narratives and things. So maybe, right? So that could be going on. Could also have the interdimensional consciousness, spiritual base, whatever you want to call those beings that like have no form actually, but can appear in any way. And they could go anywhere in time and space, and who knows? And then there could actually be real space. There could be actual planets and actual distant stars that beings of flesh and blood are coming from, whether they're teleporting from there or flying from there. Could be both, right? That could exist. It is really, really tempting, though, to discard all of what we've been told space is because of all the lies we've uncovered that they've told us about it, right? And because of all the seeming flat earth proofs that seem to disprove what they say this place is and how big they say it is. But I keep the salt in because it's possible that we're just in a much bigger plane than we thought we were. I really like the idea of Antarctica being one of many ice shelves surrounding a realm, and there being many realms around us. That's where like Agartha or, Atlantis maybe even still is out there beyond if we could get past Antarctica, we'd find yet another place that's probably really similar and also contained by an ice shelf. Who knows? Like, it could be all of these things, and it's really impossible to say. And I also don't know why we would need to. It's fun to think about all of them. I've really enjoyed this rabbit hole because it was one of the many that I came across in the past. Whenever Flat Earth came out, where I was like, what? Like, there's no way. What are you even talking about? And the more I looked, the more I was like, oh yeah, I guess I don't have any proof that space exists. I have no proof that other planets exist as what we think that they are. I have none of that. So maybe not. Maybe this is who knows? Maybe it is literally on a freaking turtle's back that's swimming through water. I don't know. I can't pretend to.
Right on.
Yeah, I think that, did you see the door on Mars that the NASA rover took of?
Or maybe Devon Island, Canada. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe Arizona.
Right.
Arizona, the Grand Canyon. But I think that's very interesting. And I've raked that concept over through my head too, Lindsey. Like, what if all the countries that we know of is like on a flat plane, and there's a whole other backside to the Earth of unexplored territory that the majority of the people don't even know that's there. And that's why we think that the Earth is flat, because everywhere that we've ever been has been on one side of the planet. So you could lay out the globe that we've been shown and then just stretch it out, and it's that's the face of the planet. I'm probably not explaining it.
No, I get it. It's like a potato instead of a globe.
Yeah, it's like a potato, and all of the places that we know that we think is on the back side of the Earth is actually on the front side of the Earth. It's kind of like the moon, like how we only see the front side of the moon. We never see the back side of the moon. What if all the places that we've ever gone in the world is all on the front side of the Earth, and there's a whole other backside to the Earth that is completely unexplored?
That'd be rad.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like you said, Lindsey, it's a fun concept. I don't know if it does really matter. Probably not at all, but it is something that's a part of a deception, I believe, that I think if we had maybe a little bit more of that answer, we could inch closer to the, nature of reality answer and what are these things. But as far as these things go, there's always a similar thread to what happens after people had genuine contact experiences and gained an understanding of it. A lot of people better their lives. A lot of people become more spiritual. A lot of people gain better spiritual understanding. They have better outcomes in their everyday lives, better relationships, and they seek to find out more about the unknown. And like I said, that's just people who have had positive experiences that they can remember, and a lot of people have started out with negative experiences. If they really get a regression or go into a better understanding of what the experience was, it turns out it was a positive experience as well, unless you were abducted by the military, which, those aren't usually turning out so positive. But I think the genuine, real consciousness experiences that are happening with people are so personally connected with them. Like with my experience, I always say the first thing they wanted me to do was heal childhood trauma, and that's not something that seems like a little green man coming to stick a probe in your butt just to experiment on you or find out what makes you tick. That seems like a lot more and a lot more personal and a lot more connected to us and our growth and where we're going on an individual spiritual basis. And I think that's what most people people are missing with this phenomenon. It's not, are they coming down on the White House lawn to make themselves known? No, they're probably coming through your mental state and consciousness to make themselves known, because it's probably more about what you need to do in your life than anything else. And that's just the way I see it at this point, right?
Yeah, I will say too, in my experiences, that's also been true. I think I might have had some military abductions. They weren't positive and whatever, but those are gone and over. The other types of experiences I've had have been very personally transformative in really beautiful ways. And that same experience I mentioned earlier, where I got to pick which little tunnel to come back through, they actually brought me out. And this is part of why I personally am still kind of clinging. I understand it's a personal bias and that it could mean all sorts of things I don't understand, but it's why I'm still personally clinging to space seems like it does exist in a similar way, at least to what we were told. And maybe the deception is that they're trying to make it seem fake to us for whatever reasons. I don't know, but they took me out and they showed me the entirety of everything, the whole universe. And it looked in a way that I had never been told or shown or understood it to be. It was like a figure 8. And at the center of it was the grandest, most brightest, beautiful light I've ever seen. And then scattered out from there was light that slowly dispersed. Right. And it was just in that figure 8, I was never told that that's what the whole entire universe would look like. In fact, we're told that it would look like a globe or that more elliptical type shape or something. So I was like, wow, that's really crazy and cool. And they're showing me all sorts of things. And they're like, you live there. And then way, way, way out towards the end of one of the sides of the figure 8s was the Milky Way, and then Earth eventually. So I'm my experience is that is real. Earth is, spinning through space, and the Milky Way is a real galaxy. And all of what we understand as space does actually exist in that way. But does it? I don't know. But it was personally transformative. And it led me to a path that seems like the best that I could have ever lived, which is also really amazing. So I'm personally grateful for it. And that's also why I always am promoting that same thing that you're talking about, Chris, is look, heal yourself. Who really cares? You'll figure out what you need to figure out as you go. You'll figure out if you think space is real or not. And it's like I said, it's always fun to think about, but what really matters is in there. You got to get it.
Well, you're right. Even though I have my doubts about what the nature of space is, during my contact experience, I was taken on a ship. I was shown stars outside of what seemed to be a massive ship into space, and other planets out there. So yeah, it's very interesting. What could be the deception? What could be reality? And probably doesn't matter either way.
But I'm if that was the deception that we were both fooled by, that's a good one. I'm okay with it. Yeah.
Do you think that whenever you saw that, do you think that we're just one universe inside of another universe, or are we our own separate universe? Because I've been kind of shown that there are many universes outside of our own universe that conjoins into a big, huge thing. So were you just seeing our universe, or were you seeing all of the universes together?
I don't know. I assume it was just one of infinite, but I have no conception. I was blown away by the fact that it existed at all. And I was I remember them laughing at me, because I was just at the window, whoa, best acid trip ever.
So did the planets look potato shaped, or how did they look perfectly round, or what did they look like?
So yeah, all I really remember is that each little is the Milky Way a galaxy? Yeah, each little galaxy is a disc, just we're kind of shown, it kind of bulges. It is a potato shape. So maybe planets are like that, right? If I don't know, but then the sun and the moon seem perfectly round. I don't know. I didn't actually see any specific planets, so I don't know if you did, Chris.
No, I didn't. I just saw stars outside in my experience. We'll never know unless we're actually taken out there.
They're all potatoes, okay?
Yeah, I like the potato analogy. It's awesome.
For sure. Let's ride on that potato. Well, earlier you alluded to the possible outcomes that the deception could lead to. One of the big ones that everyone talks about is the fake invasion. Project Bluebeam portraying something in the sky, evil aliens coming to rape all humans, and we have to have Big Daddy government save us from the evil butt-raping aliens. So that is one of the outcomes that I think is, it's actually kind of plausible. They have technology that's, 50 to 100, maybe more years than we'll ever know. I think that most of the UFOs we've seen in our skies for the past few years are in fact government, especially the drone type things, the Tic Tacs, the things that are very obviously physical in nature. I think that those are definitely ours, and they might be ramping up to do some kind of deception like this. The door on Mars, they keep talking about how more and more whistleblowers are coming out in the government. Louis Elizondo's making his rounds, saying that this is definitely a real phenomenon and it's a threat, and they're getting into our airspace and we don't know what could happen. And we never know. They might just land on the White House lawn and have military guys in greasy chicken suits walk out and fool everybody. I don't know, but it is. I think it's definitely possible. It's a possibility amongst all the madness that's happening. I think they spent a lot of time and money on COVID and everything surrounding it to let that go to the wayside. I think we'll see a return of that and maybe some World War III action and some more other stuff before it, but it's definitely on the table for me. And for me, it'd be way more entertaining than anything we've seen in the past few years. So bring on the fake invasion. I'm just kidding. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think that there's going to be a lot of things that's going to happen before, like I said earlier, the alien invasion, if that is still the plan, which I think that it is. I've had several people on my show. One, Penny Kelly, talked about at the end of 2023, we were going to have a financial collapse. And then in the 2024 to 2025 presidential election is a basically an uprising of the people. It's going to be like a civil war type scenario, but it's not going to be a civil war against people. It's going to be people against the government. And then I had David Lotherington on my show yesterday that basically said the exact same thing while he was channeling his higher self, and said that within the next 5 years we are going to experience a financial collapse. And then I asked him about the civil war or the uprising, and he said that he couldn't really comment on it, which makes me think that it's legit. So I think that that's kind of what we have to look forward to in the next 5 years, and that's not a fear thing. Like, those things have to happen. They do. No matter which way we go, no matter if we get the amazing system that's awesome for everyone, that's going to heal everyone, all of it has to come down. It all has to go. We have to destroy the medical system. We have to destroy the government infrastructure, the education system. Like, it all has to be wiped, whether we go for the positive thing or if we go for the negative surveillance state. Either way it goes, everything has to crumble. And unfortunately, that's the reality that we're in. We can't take a broken system into something new.
Yeah, I'm kind of maybe like an asshole, because part of me has always like almost looked forward to the destruction, because I'm like, man, none of this shit ever made sense. Like, everything is rotten from the inside out, and none of it works. None of it's sustainable. And I don't mean sustainable necessarily in like the greenwashing, Agenda 21 way. I mean, like, literally we can't sustain it. Like, it's not possible. So we have to have the destruction. And that's sad, because in it, I've been talking about this a lot lately, where I had this moment in like 2006 where I was sitting in like a college, square, and I was just watching everyone and just like not really thinking about it. I was just watching everyone. And I was like, just hit me. I was like, oh, all of you will just die. Like, the slightest thing will happen and you'll just die. Like, you have no will to live. You have no idea what you're doing here. You have no purpose except what's given to you and told to you. And so you're just going to like die. And I just struck me like something will happen. The cataclysms will happen, whatever they may be, financial, alien invasion, real or fake, and people will just start to crumble and fall apart. It'd be cool if we didn't have to go through like the Civil War thing that Ryder's describing. It'd be cool if we didn't have to go through mass starvation, and we don't. actually, we have the capacity to avoid all of that. But enough people might not understand that, realize it, and choose to empower themselves to do it in order to do that. We still could call it like come in super clutch at the end and not go the surveillance route, though. We could watch everything crumble and then go the like utopia route. Who knows?
I think that's honestly what we're going to get. It's just been set up as a fooling us that it's going to be horrible and it's going to be this surveillance agenda 21 type of reality. And I think that we are going to swoop in, and it's not going to be an outside source, because we have the power. We are the people, and it's going to take us to create this positive reality. Nothing is going to come in and do it for us. We have to create it. And I think that we are going to step up. And I think that in the end, when all this is over, we are going to be in a way better reality than we are now. It just doesn't look like it at the moment.
Well, and that's not to say that it's not going to be really hard, right? Change is hard for most people most of the time. And that's all of that we're describing as massive amounts of massive change. So difficulty, strife, possibly a ton of people dying, can still lead in a good direction, even though that does sound really horrible, but it could be true. I'll say again, same experience when I was coming back, picked whatever portal tunnel, came back, saw myself at the end of my life. Seemed like a pretty utopic situation going on. So I like that. I like that vision. Like, I'm like, cool, let's head that way. It seemed like everything was very techno futuristic, clean. And like, I hate that ideology. I hate that. I feel like there's been so many people who've like dangled that as a carrot of like, come to space utopia, let's build it together, we'll float on the ocean in our space utopia, like glass walled giant, skyscraper things. And I'm like, I think that's, I don't know. I think it's unrealistic.
I think we could have two different kinds of that. We could have the police state type of their version of utopia, where censorship and everything is monitored and you don't have any freedoms, or everything is a different type of technology, a better, a cleaner technology, maybe integrated with human consciousness and spirituality, and it looks different and, like you said, cleaner and not full of the BS technology that we've come to know as the only thing we can rely on. Yeah. We know there's a whole world of other free energy that they're hiding from us. Maybe that is the world you saw, and that's the one I'm hoping for.
That's what it felt like. Yeah, that's what I'm holding on to, because that's what it felt like, and that's the best possible outcome for me.
Absolutely. I agree 100%, and it's going to be a bumpy ride, and but we are going to get there, and I do believe that we do win in the end, and it's something to look forward to. It's just going to catch a lot of people off guard, and it's been disguised as something that we don't want, but I think it's what we do want.
When you're doing like a cleanse of any kind, like it actually sucks. Like it actually sucks really bad until you get to the part where it's like blissful and wonderful. It sucks. You're passing things, you're like shedding things are like coming out of your pores or whatever. Like you stink. Like it's not fun. And that's what I feel like this like transformation has to include some shedding and some purging and some things that aren't fun. And then it also makes me think of, I totally lost it. Actually, but the anal probing thing is actually possible that serves a purpose that might not be nefarious. There's actually something about that sphincter contraction that has some connection to your mind and deprogramming you or reprogramming you or programming you. So it could still be nefarious too, but to be deprogrammed, it's actually like a shortcut to deprogram you. So if you are under some kind of mind control spell, that sphincter is actually an access point to release that and come out of it. I know that's really weird, but it's true. And people who use really a lot of various different meditation techniques from all over the world in different cultures purposely contract and relax that muscle or that sphincter in order to do exactly that, to release old programming and to invite in new programming. So, because you're programming yourself in that scenario. So it's even possible that this discomfort and this negative experience that you might undergo in alien abduction could be like a friendly, like, hey, no, literally, we're just trying to free you from the trap you're in. It's in your mind.
We got a friendly probing, eh? Come on.
Yeah, just, relax.
Nice. Why did my alien sound Canadian?
It's the mushroom people from Nova Scotia.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, you had something to say, Ryder?
Yeah, I just want to comment that I think that there is something to that. The anus, and I know that sounds really weird, but that's what a lot of people have theorized that the dark side does. Is that's the rape and torture method, is to take that energy away from the people that they're raping and torturing, because that's how a lot of the Kundalini activation is being activated and ciphered is through anal sex, unfortunately. And if you can hit that spot, they can actually cipher that energy out of you and use it for their own benefit. And it makes sense, the reprogramming and deprogramming too, and like the way that they would use that for their dark agenda. And I think that that's connecting some dots on why they would do that.
Why alien probes? Yes, everyone's like, why? And I'm like, that's probably why.
I don't know about all of you, but I'm ready to go to bed tonight and get my probing on.
Come on.
Oh, yeah. All right, let's close on this, guys. What is your best description, thoughts, analysis of what we're dealing with when most people or folks say aliens? I know it's probably a mix of a bunch of things. I know it's probably not one thing. It's multiple phenomena connected somehow. For me, it's my spirit guides. For me, it's something that's been with us the whole time, guiding our evolution. Something that could be physical somewhere, but projects itself into our consciousness. Maybe it's not physical, maybe it is. I don't know, but for me, it's the most important aspect of it is they are either us or a connection to us, or somehow guiding us as a celestial entity to our full potential, or guiding us home, guiding us back to source, whatever way, trying to help us for our benefit. And this phenomena is connected to our growth and spiritual development and our consciousness evolution. And I think that whatever these are the kind of our spirit guides, our guides to whatever outcome that we as souls ultimately desire for ourselves. What do you guys think?
Yeah, and most importantly, they're not doing it for us, right? In both of our experiences, at least, and I think most people who are aware enough to be cognizant of their real experiences are having that same experience, where they're encouraging us to do it for ourselves, because there is actually no purpose in doing it for someone anyway. But inviting someone, just like we were talking about with spiritual healing, I think any good spiritual healer would be doing the same thing. Like, look, I'm assisting you here, but you're actually then learning about yourself more and learning to do it for yourself. If we have a savior swoop in, that's exactly why I wouldn't trust them, because they wouldn't be empowering us to do it for ourselves. They'd be doing it for us. And that's a damaging experience. Actually, it's not helpful at all. I do think there's some physical things going on. My tendency is to believe that they're military, my labs and exotic technologies and whatever. I do think there's some physical beings that also have aspects of interdimensionality, like Bigfoot, that could be just what we're talking about, or could be like literally their own physical sort of category of maybe ultraterrestrials or something, or inner Earth. Reptilians that can cloak themselves as humans. Like, I think that's all possible, but I think most of the encounters that people have with what we traditionally call UFOs are actually spiritual sort of consciousness-based, interdimensional, whatever you want to call that. That's my experience.
Right out. Ryder?
I would agree with that 100%. I've never technically had a contact experience. I have seen some beings whenever I was younger that would come out of the walls. They were 100% completely translucent beings. They were not physical. I have seen some things that would appear to be craft in the sky. We actually just recently seen one right out in Chris's backyard during the FKN gathering here, and I got it on night vision goggles. Recorded it, and it looked like a backwards L whenever we went back and rewatched the footage, and I was seeing it and I was like, hey, it looks like a backwards L going through the sky. And then when Laura put it onto her phone and we watched it back, it looks more like a boomerang. But no one could see it with their physical eyes. Like I was like, I filmed it for a good solid minute and a half, 2 minutes, and I'm like, hey, like I'm seeing this thing, and they're looking up in the sky and they're not seeing anything. So it's either some kind of cloaked technology that's only being able to be picked up on a infrared kind of camera, or it's in a completely different kind of reality, or it's a spiritual thing. But some people do see them physically and with their own eyes. And I think some of the most interesting ones are like the group ones, like where multiple people see the same thing, because that's it's really verifiable. And when only one person sees it, or if it's not, recorded, which we know that a lot of the phenomenon is, people just throwing trash can lids up in the sky or frisbees up in the sky. They've been doing that forever now, and taking pictures of UFOs and making really elaborate videos, hoaxes and stuff like that. There's more hoaxes of UFO footage and pictures than there are real. But again, there is real footage out there. And as far as the phenomenon, I think that like both of you have said, that it's more of it's a spiritual and it's a consciousness thing. And I do agree that some of it is physical, and but I don't necessarily believe that it's entities coming from other planets or other galaxies to visit Earth. I think that they are here, and they have been living here for a really long time.
It's interdimensional globalists here to probe you. No, Alex Jones just took over for a second. I'm sorry. All right.
That was Rex Smith.
Oh, yeah, Rex Smith. He's a good one. All right, guys, that was fun. Before y'all go, let everyone know where they can find all your podcasts, books, all the goody good stuff. Lindsey?
Rogueways.org is the best place to go to find all of my stuff. You can get my spiritual services there, my books there. You can get links to the show. I'm on Rokfin is where I most like to be, because they don't censor. I have some stuff on YouTube that they might not be upset about eventually and censor me over. And every podcast app as well. You can get the audio of all my shows.
You can find me on Raised by Giants on YouTube, Spotify, anywhere else you listen to podcasts on. You can follow me on Instagram at Raised by Giants Pod, or at Ride or Die Spirit, where I post a bunch of really funny memes every day. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Lindsey. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate both of you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ryder. That was amazing, and definitely we'll be doing it again. Lindsey, we'll talk to you on Sunday for Day 0 if you're able to make it, of course. For sure. All right, well, till next time, everyone, have an excellent evening. We'll talk again tomorrow. We'll see you then.